Hey everybody, it's Craig with Smartphone Envy. We got a great face-off for you today. Another AT&T showdown. This time, Motorola's Atrix 2 up against Apple's iPhone 4S. Before we get started, I want to thank the folks over at Best Buy Mobile for setting me up with this Motorola Atrix 2. If you're in need of a smartphone, make sure you stop by Best Buy Mobile. All right, let's kick off our face-off. The Motorola Atrix 2 weighs in at 147 grams, has a 4.3-inch TFT capacitive display, QHD resolution 540 by 960, sports Gorilla Glass, upper left center. You've got a front-facing VGA camera for video calls. Below the display, 4 touch-sensitive keys, main menu key, home key, back key, and search key. On the back, you've got an 8-megapixel camera with autofocus, LED flash, video capture, 1080p, battery 1785 milliamp hour battery rated at 8 hours and 50 minutes of talk time. Up on top, 3.5mm headphone jack, microphone, and power and lock key. On the right-hand side, volume rocker up and down, dedicated camera key. On the bottom is nothing, and on the left-hand side, HDMI port as well as micro USB port. All right, get rid of that. Next up, Apple's iPhone 4S weighs in at 140 grams, a little bit lighter of the two. Sports a 3.5-inch TFT backlit LCD display. Resolution is 640 by 960. Display itself is scratch resistant. Upper left center again, front-facing VGA camera for video calls. Below the display, 1 physical home key. On the back, again, we've got an 8-megapixel camera with autofocus LED flash. Video capture, again, is 1080p. Battery, 1432 milliamp hour battery rated at 8 hours of talk time. Up on top, 3.5mm headphone jack along with the power and lock key. On the right-hand side is the cover for the micro SIM card slot. On the bottom is a microphone, speaker, and port for charging, syncing, and transferring data. And on the left-hand side, your volume buttons up and down as well as a mute key. All right, let's talk processors in these two. They both sport dual-core processors. On the Atrix 2, you've got a Texas Instruments OMAP 1 gigahertz dual-core processor. On the iPhone 4S, it's the 1 gigahertz Apple A5 dual-core processor. As far as internal storage, Atrix 2, 8 gigabytes, which can be expanded an additional 32 gigabytes through the use of a micro SD card. iPhone 4S comes in 3 models, either 16 gigabytes, 32 gigabytes, or 64 gigabytes of internal storage. As far as RAM, the Atrix 2 has 1 gigabyte of RAM, the iPhone 4 is 512 megabytes. As far as Wi-Fi, 802.11 ABGNN on the Atrix 2 along with DLNA and HDMI out. On the iPhone 4S, it's 802.11 BGNN. As far as Bluetooth, Atrix 2 version 2.1 with support for A2DP. iPhone 4S, I think the only smartphone out there right now with Bluetooth version 4.0. GPS, both offer support for AGPS. Both can be used as Wi-Fi hotspots. Operating system on the Atrix 2 is Android 2.3.5 Gingerbread. On the iPhone 4S, it's iOS 5. As far as user interface on the Atrix 2, it's Moto Blur. And on the iPhone 4S, again, it's iOS 5. Next up, let's try some artificial intelligence experiments. Text Craig, message, I'll meet you at Starbucks at 4? All right, so the Atrix 2 has it. Waiting for Siri to get it for us.
I am having trouble connecting to the network.
All right, Siri can't connect to the network. Let's try. Listen to Michael Jackson.
Sorry, I couldn't find Michael Jackson in your music.
All right. All right, and we got Michael Jackson on the Atrix 2. All right, let's try. Meeting with Bob next Wednesday at 4 p.m.
I didn't find any meetings for this Wednesday at 4 p.m. with Bob. Shall I create it?
Yes. All right, you can see Siri had absolutely no problem creating an appointment, and the Atrix 2 obviously can't handle that. All right, let's try What is 15% of 685 divided by 4? And the answer on the Atrix, 25.68. And waiting for Siri. And again, I've got these both running off the AT&T network. Still waiting for Siri. All right, well, we'll assume Siri knows how to do math. Next up, navigate to Starbucks. I'm guessing both will come back with lists. All right.
In 400 feet, turn right onto Bayport Way.
Okay, as you can see, we've got voice guided turn-by-turn navigation on the Atrix 2. Still waiting on Siri. Siri seems to be waiting on Siri. Okay, I give up.
I give up.
Could you try it again? Okay, so Siri couldn't do that. Siri doesn't know how to navigate. Siri can give you a list, a route, but no voice guided turn-by-turn. Set an alarm for 6:30 a.m. tomorrow. All right, this is done. And we're still waiting on Siri to set that. All right, well, we'll assume she can set an alarm. What's the weather like in Chicago, Illinois? All right, and we've got on the Atrix 2, 48 degrees. Sounds a little chilly. All right, let's try this again, see if it'll get it. What's the weather like in Chicago, Illinois? All right. I'm assuming she's going to pull down the same thing. I'm not quite sure why Siri's having such a hard time connecting to the network. Again, they're both running off AT&T. They both have the same number of bars available. They both have 2. So not quite sure why Siri's having such a hard time unless the little network overload on Siri. All right, let's try a little gaming. iPhone 4S up first. All right, there's a lap on the 4S. Atrix 2. We're off. I started out so well. What happened? Next up, let's run down a couple of YouTube videos. Again, I've got them both running off the network. And we'll kick these off. All right, that was pretty evident. That was the Atrix 2. Let's try 2011. Did I see that on here? Yeah, let's try one more. And we're off. All right, let's look at our YouTube comparison. Next up, we're going to take a look at speedtest.net. I've run a few already, and this has been pretty consistent. We'll run a couple more right now. Download speeds have been about double on the Atrix 2 versus the iPhone 4S, and upload speeds have been consistently better on the iPhone 4S than on the Atrix 2. Let's run another one and see what happens. Oops, if I actually hit it, there we go. And we're getting a little better showing out of the iPhone 4S this time around. Atrix 2 again seems to be finding the mid to upper 4s. Maybe not quite going to make it this time. Yep, 4 versus 1.81. And an upload. Pretty typical. All right, we're usually getting about double download from the Atrix 2 and about double upload from the iPhone 4S, and we'll run one more. I think this will make it maybe 5 or 6 total. But yeah, it looks pretty consistent. So again, we'll run our YouTube evaluation and see if this is sorts out the same way. You would expect that the Atrix would download and spool up YouTube videos as well as web pages quicker than the iPhone 4S based on our tests here. So there's speedtest.net.